Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at something that sounds straight out of science fiction, but it's actually happening right now.
Mm.
Yeah. It's called vibe coding. Imagine being able to build software
Oh, wow.
just by describing what you want.
Okay.
Like telling a computer, make me an app that helps me find the best pizza in town. And boom, it just happens.
Wow.
That's the kind of power we're talking about.
So what's really fascinating about this is that we're seeing this shift from, writing every single line of code
Right.
to giving AI high-level instructions and letting it handle like the heavy lifting.
Okay, so we're not just talking about some futuristic fantasy here.
No.
We've got actual research, we've got news articles, we've even got code samples
Right.
that suggest that this is becoming a reality. And at the heart of this revolution, there are two key players: Anthropic, an AI company, and Cursor, a new kind of code editor.
Right. Anthropic has been making waves with their Claude AI models.
Okay.
And these models are designed to understand and generate human-like text, but they're also incredibly good at writing code.
So it's like having a super intelligent coding buddy who can not only understand your ideas,
Yeah.
but also translate them into a language that computers can understand.
That's a great analogy, yeah. And the code that these AI models generate isn't just functional. It's often well-structured and even elegant.
Wow. Okay, so,
Yeah.
and that's where Cursor comes in.
Right.
It's an AI-powered code editor
Yeah.
built specifically for this new way of working.
Cursor takes things a step further
Okay.
by providing an interface that makes it easy to interact with these AI models and guide them through the development process.
So it's not just about giving the AI a one-line command and hoping for the best.
Right.
It's about having a more collaborative back and forth,
Yeah.
like working with a human developer,
Yeah.
but with the speed and efficiency of AI.
Exactly. You can give the AI feedback. You can ask it to make changes. You can even have it generate multiple options to choose from.
Well, I'm already picturing myself building like my own app empire. But
Yeah.
before I get carried away, let's take a step back and make sure we all understand the basics here. So for those who might not be familiar with the world of software development, can you explain what vibe coding actually means in practice?
Think of it like this. Imagine you're trying to explain your dream home to an architect.
Oak.
You might not know the technical terms or the exact measurements, but you can describe the overall feel, the layout, the features you want.
Like, I want a cozy living room with a fireplace, a spacious kitchen with an island, and a backyard with a deck for entertaining.
Exactly. And a good architect can take that description and translate it into a detailed blueprint that can then be used to build your dream home.
So in this analogy, the AI is like the architect, and the vibe is your description of what you want the software to do and how you want it to feel.
Precisely. You're essentially communicating the overall vision.
Yeah.
And the AI takes care of the technical details of turning that vision into reality.
That sounds amazing. But I imagine there's still a learning curve, right? It can't be as simple as just thinking of an idea and having the AI magically build it for you.
You're right. There's definitely a skill to giving effective instructions to the AI. You need to be clear, concise, and think carefully about how you phrase your requests.
So it's not just about having a great idea. It's also about being able to articulate that idea in a way that the AI can understand. It's like being a film director.
Right.
You need a clear vision of what you want.
Right.
But you also need to know how to communicate that vision to your crew to make it a reality.
That's a great analogy. And just like a good director knows how to get the best out of their actors and crew, a good vibe coder knows how to get the best out of the AI.
This brings us to another interesting point. The difference between Anthropic and OpenAI. So OpenAI is the company behind ChatGPT, which everyone and their grandmother seems to be talking about these days.
Right.
But Anthropic is a bit more under the radar. So what's the deal there? Are they just rivals trying to outdo each other, or is there something more to it?
Well, there's definitely a sense of competition between these two AI powerhouses.
Yeah.
There's also a philosophical difference in their approach to AI development. Anthropic was actually founded by former OpenAI employees who had concerns about the potential risks of unchecked AI development.
So it's a bit like a superhero origin story, where the sidekick realizes the mentor is going down a dangerous path and decides to branch out and do things differently.
Yeah.
You could say that. Anthropic has placed a strong emphasis on AI safety and responsible development, building models that are designed to be more aligned with human values and less likely to cause harm.
That's interesting. So while both companies are pushing the boundaries of AI, they're doing so with different priorities.
Yeah.
Like, it's the classic good cop, bad cop dynamic. But in the world of AI, OpenAI is pushing the limits while Anthropic is trying to keep things under control.
Yeah.
It's all a bit like Tony Stark and Bruce Banner, you know. Stark is all about pushing boundaries, even if it means taking risks, while Banner is always trying to contain the potential dangers.
That's a clever way to think about it.
Yeah.
And it raises an important question. Whose approach will ultimately lead to a better outcome?
Right.
Will it be the relentless innovator
Yeah.
or the cautious guardian?
Yeah.
Only time will tell.
Okay, so we've got these two AI titans battling it out for the future of artificial intelligence.
And in the middle of it all is this revolutionary new way of building software. It's all very exciting, but also a bit daunting. What are some of the potential challenges and pitfalls that we need to be aware of as we venture into this brave new world of vibe coding?
One of the biggest challenges is ensuring that the AI understands your intentions correctly. Even the most advanced AI models can sometimes misinterpret instructions or make assumptions that don't align with your vision.
So it's not as simple as just throwing a bunch of words at the AI and hoping it figures it out.
Right.
You need to be precise and deliberate in your communication.
Exactly. And even then, there's always a chance that the AI will miss something or make a mistake. It's like giving directions to someone who's never been to your city before. You might think you're being clear, but there's always a chance they'll take a wrong turn or get lost along the way.
So what can you do to avoid getting lost in translation? Are there any best practices?
Or tips for giving effective instructions to the AI?
One key is to start small.
Okay.
And break down your project into manageable chunks. Don't try to build an entire app in one go.
So instead of saying, build me an app that does everything, you might start by saying, build me a simple login screen.
Exactly. By focusing on smaller, well-defined tasks, you can minimize the risk of miscommunication and ensure that the AI is on the right track.
That makes sense. It's like building a house. You start with the foundation and you work your way up, one brick at a time. You wouldn't try to build the whole thing in one go.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Another important tip is to use clear and concise language, avoiding jargon or technical terms that the AI might not understand.
So instead of saying something like, implement a multi-threaded asynchronous API call, you might say, get data from the internet in a way that doesn't slow down the app.
Precisely. The goal is to communicate your intent in a way that is both human-friendly and AI-compatible. It sounds like finding the right balance is key here. You want to give the AI enough freedom to be creative and leverage its strengths, but you also need to provide clear guidance and constraints to avoid unintended consequences. It's like training a powerful but unpredictable animal. You need to be firm but fair, establishing boundaries while also allowing it to express its natural abilities.
That's an interesting analogy. And one that highlights the importance of understanding both the power and the limitations of this technology.
Speaking of limitations, let's address another potential pitfall. The risk of over-reliance on AI. So if we become too dependent on these tools, will we lose our own ability to code? Will future developers be helpless without their AI assistants?
That's a valid concern. It's like relying too heavily on GPS navigation. If you always rely on the GPS to tell you where to go, you might lose your sense of direction and your ability to navigate without it.
So how do we avoid becoming digitally directionless? Is there a way to embrace the power of AI while also maintaining our own coding skills?
I think the key is to see AI as a tool. Not a replacement. It's like using a power drill instead of a screwdriver. The power drill makes the job faster and easier. But you still need to know how to use a screwdriver for those times when a power drill isn't appropriate.
So it's not about choosing one or the other. It's about finding the right tool for the job.
Exactly.
And sometimes the best tool might be your own brain and a good old-fashioned text editor.
Exactly. And by understanding the underlying principles of coding,
Yeah.
you'll be better equipped to work with AI
Uh-huh.
to troubleshoot problems and to push the boundaries of what's possible.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential benefits of vibe coding, the importance of clear communication with AI, and the risk of over-reliance. But before we dive deeper into the specific features and capabilities of Cursor, I want to pause and ask you for a bold prediction. Where do you see this technology going in the next 5 to 10 years?
That's a great question. I believe that vibe coding will become so ubiquitous that it will fundamentally change not only the software development industry, but also the way we interact with technology in general.
Good.
Imagine a world where anyone with an idea can create their own app, website, or even video game without needing years of coding experience.
That's a pretty bold prediction. Are you suggesting that we're all going to become software developers? Will coding become as commonplace as writing an email or creating a PowerPoint presentation?
I wouldn't say that everyone will become a professional software developer,
Right.
but I do think that the barriers to entry will become significantly lower. We'll see a rise in what I call citizen developers, people who use these AI-powered tools to build solutions for their own needs or for their communities without needing to be coding experts.
That's a fascinating idea. It's like the democratization of software development, putting the power to create in the hands of the many, not just the few.
Exactly.
And I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But we'll need to tread carefully. If everyone can build software, we'll need to make sure that that software is safe, reliable, and ethical.
Right.
But that's a conversation for another deep dive.
Indeed, we have a lot more to explore.
We've covered a lot of ground in this first part, but stay tuned for part 2, where we'll dive into how Cursor works and how it's changing the game for developers of all skill levels.
Great.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Welcome back. I'm still kind of buzzing from that prediction. Everyday people building their own software. That's a future I definitely want to live in. But let's get a little bit practical for a second. We talked about the vibe coding.
Yeah.
But how do you actually, translate that into something a computer can understand?
Right. That's where Cursor comes in. Remember how we talked about it being more than just a code editor?
Yeah.
It's built for this new era where you're collaborating with AI.
Yeah, it's like having a super-powered coding buddy who never gets tired or needs coffee breaks.
Right.
But how does it actually work? I mean, I'm picturing like typing something like, make me a website that sells vintage records, and then like magic.
It's not quite magic, but it's getting close. Cursor has this amazing feature called Composer.
Okay.
Which is like a supercharged version of the code completion suggestions you might have seen in other editors. Yeah.
So instead of just suggesting like the next word or line of code, it can generate whole chunks of code.
Right.
Even entire files based on what you tell it.
Exactly. And the cool thing is that it works with your existing code base.
Okay.
So if you already have a project started,
yeah,
you can use Composer to add new features, refactor existing code.
Hold on, refactor. That sounds like one of those technical terms we're supposed to be avoiding.
Oh, you're right. I slipped into jargon mode there.
Yeah, what does it actually mean?
Refactoring is basically like cleaning up and reorganizing your code without changing how it works. It's like taking a messy room and tidying it up so that everything is in its place and easy to find.
Okay, that makes sense. So if my code is a bit of a digital mess, Cursor can help me clean it up and make it more efficient.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty handy, especially if you're working on a large project with a lot of moving parts.
Exactly. And because Composer is powered by AI, it can often do this, refactoring much faster and more accurately than a human developer could.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
But let's go back to the selling vintage records website example. If I were to type that into Cursor, what would happen next? Like, walk me through the process.
Okay, so you type in your prompt, make me a website that sells vintage records. Cursor, using Anthropic's Claude as its AI brain, starts by analyzing your request to figure out what you're trying to achieve. It might ask you some clarifying questions.
Okay.
Like, what kind of vintage records do you want to sell? Or what features do you want the website to have?
So it's not just like blindly following orders.
Right.
It's actually trying to understand my intentions and make sure it's building the right thing.
Yeah.
It's like having a conversation with a human developer.
Right.
Except much faster and without the awkward small talk.
Exactly. And as you answer these questions, Cursor starts generating code in real time.
Right.
You'll see the code appearing on your screen, and you can actually watch
Okay.
as the AI builds your website, piece by piece.
That sounds kind of mesmerizing. But what if the AI starts going in a direction that I don't like? Can I, intervene and steer it back on course?
Absolutely. One of the key features of vibe coding is this idea of iterative development.
Right.
You're not just giving the AI a command and waiting for it to finish. You're constantly providing feedback, making adjustments, and refining the design as you go.
So it's like sculpting a piece of art, right?
Yeah.
You start with a rough outline.
Right.
Then you gradually shape and refine it until you achieve your desired outcome.
Yeah.
And in this case, the AI is like your digital chisel, helping you to, mold the software into its final form.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And what's really exciting is that this iterative process allows for a lot of experimentation and creativity. You can try out different ideas, see how they look and feel, and make changes quickly and easily.
It reminds me of how, some movie directors work. They don't have a completely finished script when they start filming. They have a general idea of the story they want to tell, but they're open to improvisation and making changes as they go. They might film a scene one way, then watch it back and realize it needs to be, tweaked or even completely reshot.
Yeah.
It's a more fluid and organic process that allows for more creative exploration.
That's a great parallel. And it highlights how vibe coding is not just about automation.
Right.
It's about augmenting human creativity.
Yeah.
It's about giving us the tools to bring our ideas to life faster and more efficiently so we can spend less time wrestling with code and more time focusing on the big picture.
Okay, I'm sold. But let's be honest, there are still some skeptics out there. Some people are worried that vibe coding is going to make developers lazy, that we'll lose our ability to write good code if we're always relying on AI to do it for us. How do you respond to those concerns?
I understand those concerns, but I think they're misguided. Vibe coding is not about replacing human developers. It's about empowering them to do more with less effort.
So instead of spending hours, writing boilerplate code or debugging syntax errors, developers can focus on the more creative and strategic aspects of software development.
Exactly.
Like designing elegant user interfaces or optimizing performance or coming up with innovative new features.
Exactly. And let's not forget that even with vibe coding, you still need to have a solid understanding of coding principles.
Okay.
You need to be able to read and understand the code that the AI generates to troubleshoot problems and to make modifications when necessary.
It's like having a personal chef who can whip up delicious meals in minutes. You still need to know the basics of cooking to, appreciate the chef's skills, to make adjustments to the recipe, or to cook something yourself when the chef is off duty.
That's a great analogy. And it underscores the point that vibe coding is not a magic bullet. It's a powerful tool that can augment our abilities, but it doesn't replace the need for human expertise and ingenuity.
Okay, so we've established that vibe coding is not going to turn developers into, mindless button pushers.
All right.
But let's talk about the other end of the spectrum. Those who are completely new to coding.
Yeah.
Can vibe coding make software development accessible to anyone, even those with no prior experience?
That's one of the most exciting aspects of this technology. Vibe coding has the potential to democratize software development, making it possible for anyone with an idea to bring it to life, regardless of their technical background. Imagine a world where artists, entrepreneurs, teachers, or even students can create their own apps and websites without needing to learn complex programming languages.
That sounds like a recipe for chaos.
Right.
Won't we end up with a million poorly designed apps and buggy websites cluttering up the internet?
That's a valid concern.
Yeah.
And it's one that we need to address.
Right.
But I think the potential benefits outweigh the risks. By empowering more people to create software, we'll see an explosion of creativity and innovation. We'll see new solutions to old problems, new ways of connecting with each other, and new forms of entertainment and education.
It's like the early days of the internet, when anyone with a modem and a dream could create their own website. It was messy and chaotic at times.
Right.
But it also led to an incredible burst of creativity and innovation.
It's exactly.
Who knows what amazing things people will build once the power to code is in everyone's hands.
Exactly. And just like the internet evolved and matured over time, so too will the tools and platforms for vibe coding. We'll see better safeguards against poorly designed software, more educational resources to help people learn the basics of coding, and more robust platforms that can handle the increased demand.
This all sounds incredibly promising, but I'm curious about the practicalities. How does Cursor handle, more complex features like databases, user authentication, or security? Those are essential parts of any modern software application.
That's a great question. One of the key innovations of Cursor is that it's designed to work with what are called agents.
Okay.
Think of an agent as a specialized piece of AI that's trained to handle a specific task, like managing a database or implementing security protocols.
So it's like having a team of expert developers at your disposal, each with their own area of specialization. If I need to add a database to my vintage record website, I just call in the database agent.
Exactly. You can instruct Cursor to bring in the database agent, and it will integrate the necessary code and functionality into your project. And the beauty of it is that you don't need to know the intricacies of database management yourself. The agent takes care of all the technical details behind the scenes.
That sounds incredibly powerful. It's like having a team of invisible elves working tirelessly to build your software while you focus on the high-level design and functionality. But what about control? If these agents are so autonomous, how do I make sure they're doing what I want them to do?
That's where the art of prompt engineering comes in.
Okay.
You need to be able to give clear and concise instructions to the agents, specifying exactly what you want them to do and how you want them to do it.
So it's like being a conductor, leading an orchestra. You don't need to play every instrument yourself.
Right.
But you need to know how to, guide the musicians and coordinate their efforts to create a harmonious symphony.
That's a perfect analogy. And just like a conductor needs to have a deep understanding of music theory and composition, a good vibe coder needs to have a solid grasp of software development principles to effectively communicate with and manage these AI agents.
Okay, I'm starting to get a sense of just how powerful and versatile Cursor is. But we've talked a lot about the AI side of things. What about the human side? How does Cursor make the development process more user-friendly and intuitive for human developers?
Cursor has a number of features that are designed to enhance the user experience. Okay. For example, it has a visual interface that allows you to see the structure of your code and how the different components fit together. It also has features like syntax highlighting, code completion, and error detection. That can help you write better code faster.
So it's not just about making it easier to work with AI.
Right.
It's also about making the traditional coding experience more pleasant and productive. It's like having a well-organized workshop with all the tools you need within easy reach.
Yeah.
As opposed to rummaging through a cluttered garage trying to find the right screwdriver.
Exactly. And because Cursor is built from the ground up for vibe coding, it integrates seamlessly with the AI agents, providing a smooth and intuitive workflow.
Okay. I'm eager to try it out myself. But before we wrap up this part, I want to ask you a provocative question. If vibe coding becomes as widespread as you predict, will it change the way we think about software ownership and intellectual property? If anyone can create software with a few clicks, what happens to the concept of copyright or patents?
That's a fascinating question, and one that legal scholars and policymakers are already grappling with. The traditional models of software ownership might need to be rethought. In this new era of AI-generated code, it's possible that we'll see a shift towards more open source models, where code is freely shared and reused, or towards new forms of licensing and attribution that take into account the role of AI in the creation process.
That's definitely something to keep an eye on. It seems like vibe coding is not just changing the technical landscape of software development.
Right.
It's also shaking up the legal and economic foundations of the industry.
Absolutely. And this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
We're still in the early stages of this this revolution.
Right.
And it's exciting to think about all the possibilities and challenges that lie ahead.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing is for sure,
Yeah.
the future of software development is going to be very different from the past.
Well said. We've covered a lot of ground in this part, from the inner workings of Cursor to the broader implications of AI-generated code.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still more to explore.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for part 3, where we'll delve into the ethical considerations of vibe coding, the potential risks and challenges, and what it all means for the future of work and society. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into vibe coding. You know, we've explored the technology, the tools, the potential, but now it's time to, get real about the implications, right? It's all well and good to dream about building apps with a snap of our fingers, but we need to talk about the potential downsides.
Right.
The ethical dilemmas, what this all means for the future.
You're absolutely right. Like any powerful technology, vibe coding has the potential for both good and bad.
Right.
It's like fire, incredibly useful, even transformative, but also dangerous if not handled with care.
Okay, I'm getting a little Prometheus vibe here, but let's break it down. What are some of the specific ethical concerns that come to mind?
One of the biggest concerns is bias. We've already seen how AI systems can perpetuate and even amplify existing biases in society.
Right.
If the data used to train these AI models is biased, the code they generate could also be biased, leading to unfair discriminatory outcomes.
So if we're building software that's supposed to, help people find jobs, get loans, or even just access information,
right,
we need to be very careful that it's not inadvertently discriminating against certain groups of people.
Exactly. And this is not just a hypothetical concern. We've already seen examples
Right.
of AI-powered systems
Yeah.
that have been shown to be biased against women, minorities, or people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds.
It's like that old saying, garbage in, garbage out.
Right.
If we feed the AI biased data, it's going to spit out biased code.
Precisely. So one of the key challenges is ensuring that the data used to train these AI models is diverse, representative, and free from harmful biases.
But even if we solve the data bias problem,
Right.
there's still the issue of unintended consequences. What happens when someone uses vibe coding to create software that's harmful or malicious? It's like giving everyone access to a nuclear reactor. Sure, most people will use it for good, but what about those who don't?
That's a valid concern, and it's one that we need to address through a combination of technical safeguards, ethical guidelines, and education. On the technical side, we can build in mechanisms that detect and prevent the creation of harmful code.
So kind of like antivirus software for vibe coding.
Exactly. We can also develop ethical guidelines for developers, encouraging them to use this technology responsibly and to consider the potential impact of their creations.
And education is key, right? We need to teach people not just how to use these tools, but also how to use them ethically. Driver's education. We don't just teach people how to operate a car. We also teach them the rules of the road and the importance of driving safely.
I completely agree. We need to foster a culture of responsible innovation where developers are not just focused on building the coolest new tech, but also on building tech that is safe, fair, and beneficial to society.
Okay, so we've talked about bias, unintended consequences, but what about the impact on jobs? Is vibe coding going to lead to mass unemployment for software developers?
That's a question that's on a lot of people's minds.
Right.
And it's true that some tasks that are currently done by human developers will likely be automated.
So those entry-level coding jobs, the ones that involve a lot of repetitive tasks or writing boilerplate code,
right,
those are the ones that are most at risk.
That's likely, but I don't think we're headed towards a developer-less dystopia. In fact, I think vibe coding will create new opportunities for developers who can adapt and evolve.
So instead of being replaced by AI, developers will need to learn how to work with AI.
Right.
It's like the transition from horses to cars.
Yeah.
Right? Blacksmiths and farriers might have lost their jobs.
Right.
But new jobs emerged for mechanics and engineers.
That's a great analogy. And just like those early mechanics needed to understand the inner workings of the combustion engine, future developers will need to understand the principles of AI.
Right.
How to train models.
Right.
How to interpret their output and how to integrate them into their workflows.
It's almost like a new branch of software engineering is emerging. AI engineering, prompt engineering. What do we even call this new field?
That's a great question, and one that's still being debated, but regardless of what we call it, it's clear that there will be a growing demand for developers who can bridge the gap between human intentions and AI capabilities.
It's like the evolution of like the film industry. You know, when special effects became more sophisticated, it didn't put special effects artists out of work. It just raised the bar. Now you need even more skill in artistry to create truly stunning visual effects.
Exactly. And I think the same will be true for software development. Vibe coding will raise the bar for what's possible, and it will create new opportunities for developers who are willing to embrace these new tools and techniques.
Okay, I'm starting to feel a bit more optimistic about the future of software development, but let's zoom out a bit and talk about like the broader societal implications, right? If vibe coding makes software development more accessible, could it lead to like a more equitable and innovative society?
I believe it has the potential to do just that. By empowering more people to create software, we can democratize access to technology and level the playing field for those who have been historically marginalized or excluded from the tech industry.
So we could see like more apps and services created by and for people from diverse backgrounds, addressing the specific needs of their communities.
Absolutely. We could see apps designed to help people with disabilities, apps that promote financial inclusion, apps that connect people in underserved communities, and apps that address the unique challenges of developing countries.
It's almost like giving everyone a superpower, the power to create technology that can make a difference in their lives and the lives of others.
I love that analogy. And it's not just about addressing social issues. Vibe coding could also lead to an explosion of creativity in areas like art, music, and entertainment.
Imagine like musicians using vibe coding to create new instruments or soundscapes, artists using it to build like interactive installations, or filmmakers using it to create like immersive virtual worlds.
Exactly. The possibilities are truly endless.
Okay, I'm starting to get carried away with all these utopian visions, but let's be realistic for a second. If anyone can create software, how do we prevent the spread of, misinformation, propaganda, or even harmful code?
That's a crucial question, and one that we need to address head on. We need to develop robust mechanisms for content moderation, fact-checking, and cybersecurity to mitigate those risks.
So it's like the challenges we're facing with social media platforms today, but amplified.
In some ways, yes. But I believe that we can learn from those experiences and develop more effective strategies for managing the flow of information and ensuring that these powerful tools are used for good, not for harm.
This is a lot to process. We've covered so much ground, from the technical details of vibe coding to the ethical and societal implications. But before we wrap up, I want to come back to that bold prediction you made earlier. You said that vibe coding will fundamentally change how we interact with technology. Can you paint a picture of what that future might look like?
Imagine a world where technology is truly personalized, where it adapts to our individual needs and preferences. Instead of being passive consumers of technology, we become active creators, shaping the digital world to reflect our own values and aspirations. Imagine homes that respond to our voice commands, workplaces that anticipate our needs, and cities that are designed to enhance our well-being.
It sounds like something straight out of a science fiction movie. But is it really achievable?
I believe it's achievable. And I think vibe coding will be a key enabler of this future. By making it easier to create software, we'll unlock a wave of innovation that will transform every aspect of our lives.
It's a future I'm excited to be a part of, and I think it's a future that's worth fighting for, but it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to require collaboration, innovation, and a commitment to using this technology responsibly and ethically.
I couldn't agree more. It's a collective effort, and one that requires us to think carefully about the kind of future we want to create.
Okay, folks, we've reached the end of our deep dive into vibe coding. It's been a wild ride filled with exciting possibilities, daunting challenges, and thought-provoking questions. I hope you've enjoyed the journey as much as we have.
It's been a pleasure exploring this fascinating topic with you. And remember, this is just the beginning. The future of vibe coding is still being written, and we all have a role to play in shaping it.
So stay curious, stay engaged, and keep exploring the ever-evolving world of technology. And who knows, maybe you'll be the one to build the next killer app using nothing but your voice and a little bit of vibe coding magic.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.